Quaid and Melina fly out of the pyramid, and the pressure is so low that they're about to die. The pyramid mine is activated and starts shooting gas out. It looks kind of uncontrolled, but I'm not sure it is.
I think it's runaway.
Yeah, here's the heating rods.
Yep, dipping down into that turbidium surface, converting it to air somehow.
Yep. And then here's the atmosphere pumping out of the pyramid mine. So Melina and Quaid are somewhere on one of these.
Yeah.
Somewhere here.
Yeah.
So they're at like 0 atmosphere essentially when they hit the sand, and they start to die. So they probably have like 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds before they're toast. And I guess what's the minimum pressure they would need to get up to survive? Maybe 0.2, 0.3 of an atmosphere?
I guess.
Something like that. So somehow there needs to be a localized bubble around the pyramid mine that sits above 0.2, 0.3 atmospheres so they can survive.
Why localized? Why not just the whole planet?
Well, doesn't it seem unrealistic that this thing could pump the whole planet up to 0.2?
I see what you're saying.
So it'd be like a localized bubble of high pressure that slowly spreads around.
I see what you're saying. So ideally, like the whole planet is covered with an even atmosphere. Mm-hmm. But in the short term, you could have enough atmosphere nearby the opening for Melina and for Quaid to be able to survive.
Mm-hmm. At first glance, I thought there's no way this is like scientifically possible because the pressure would never get high enough when they're outside for them not to die. But the physics is complicated here. Maybe could be that localized bubble.
Like it's like the air is spreading out over time. And so the other side of Mars is too far away. It's not yet having an atmosphere. But where they are, there's enough.
There's enough, yeah.
Okay.
What about the winds, though? Wouldn't there be a lot of wind?
That's a good point. So if there's no atmosphere and then suddenly a lot of atmosphere, like no atmosphere, then suddenly a lot of atmosphere, it's going to cause a huge rush of wind. It's going to pick up all that dust, all that sand.
Maybe the fact that they got stuck in the control room, there was the
shockwave
already passed, then they flew out, so the pressure was already building when they got out.
Right. My concern about that wind is that it's going to pick up a bunch of Martian sand, Martian dust, Martian little bits of rocks, and because there's very little erosion on Mars, those things are like those granules are little sharp things. So you're saying that because they held on for as long as they could, when that first gust of wind blew away all that sand, they actually landed on a pretty smooth surface, not sharp.
And that explains why the windows shattered at the colony, because normally wind hitting it probably wouldn't do it, but wind with the little shattery pieces.
Yeah.
It
basically ninja rocks.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
I see. Very cool.
So my physicist brain at first was like, no way. But now I'm like, possible, maybe. This is a lot of complicated gas dynamics going on here. Plus the sand, plus these how does that work on a planetary scale? It might be possible.
My concern, though, is my understanding is that the reason Mars doesn't have an atmosphere like Earth or Venus is that it's just not big enough. There's just not enough mass, so it doesn't hold on to an atmosphere. So
yeah, I thought about that as well, and I think on geologic timescales, Mars, if you put a 1 atmospheric pressure on Mars, on geologic timescales, it's going to get whittled away by the lack of mass and lack of magnetic field on
geologic
Mars.
Timescales, you're talking about like billions of years?
Probably 100,000 years, maybe.
Okay.
So if you put a Earth-like atmosphere on Mars and 10,000 years later, it's at 80%. For us, that's totally fine. I
guess it's still good. Yeah.
We just need a small amount of replenishment every year, and we would stick at 1 atmosphere. So maybe when this atmosphere is sent onto Mars, it will last 10,000 years.
It's good enough for me.
Well, good enough for civilization. So even though Mars can't hold on to an atmosphere, the time scales, it's actually unknown, I think, maybe.
Good point.
Okay.
So the scene, totally legit.
Yeah, totally legit. We declared it legit, therefore legit.
There it is.